I'm back on the court. Got my hip replacement. Last year. Second. Not too. Seems to me right between singles. Sorry.
something you wanted me to do now?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention, please?
Okay, am I connected?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Or not? Could you all make your way to your tables now, please?
Okay, Josh, I'm...
And may I ask all the current members of the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame or their representatives to meet out at the reception area for a photograph. Thank you.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Check 1 2, check 1 2.
Could you please all take your seats at your tables?
Leslie is at home in palliative care. Look at that day. I'm walking with a slight British accent. I had the Oxford 4 weeks ago. Partial knee replacement. It's a partial, not a full. So on the inside, right here, and yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's still stiff. They say it takes about 6 weeks to put it all back. Some people take it longer. Quickly, because I want to go. The other one, I mean, they keep saying, how's your well, I'm going to do the gym. Seriously. Everybody that's had guns get strong. None of them got strong. Same as ever. I love it, and it's shitty. Someone just told someone that today. I said, everything. Someone said, how can I help you? I care so much about Somebody asked me if we was a good golfer. I said, there's only 100 good golfers in the world. Yes. Yeah. Dylan, yeah, he's playing squash. Please say hi to Mark and Kathy.
Making me a doggy bag all the way.
Well, go say hi. Yeah, I will. Right, I was going to say how to go. I'm well, how are you? Going out into the universe.
Is there a seating? I figure if I sit beside Donnie, I can hear. Who else is still to come? It's fine, I could have a big kid. You should always say, just come on at 7
Oh,
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could you all have your seats and we're going to start the ceremony?
yes. 4 weeks ago. Excellent. Oops. Excuse me. Hi, Karen. Go on. No, don't come. Let's see your face. Good to see you. Ray. Breaking my heart. Good to see you.
How are you?
Doing well.
Get him with the beer. My table. Oh my God.
Rick. Oh yeah, really? Good job.
It's my very great honor to introduce to you members of the class of 2005. Ian Stewart, represented by Marlene Stewart. Sharif Khan. Jim Mason, represented by his son Martin Mason. There. The class of 2007, unfortunately, are not here tonight, but the class of 2009, I give you Tony Swift. The class of 2011, Frank Bailey and Gary Waite. The class of 2013, Peter Hall, Graham Riding, Gordon Anderson. The class of 2015, Mark Sackvey, represented by Nick Sackvey, Barbara Cooper, Jay Gillespie, represented by Lily Gillespie. The class of 2017, Rob Brooks. The class of 2019, Clive Caldwell and Peter Frost. If you'd like to
Restless crowd.
Pardon me?
Restless crowd.
It is a restless crowd. And I've usually got a booming voice. Could you all please sit down? Shall I just start, Peter? Uh-oh, we're out of sync. It's my very great honor on behalf of the Board of Governors of the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame to introduce the 4 new inductees to the Hall of Fame. Right beside me is Murray Christensen. Tim Mallory, representing us, Freeman. Missing in action is Penny Glover, who unfortunately contracted COVID. Oh, did I say Patrick Riding? Oh, Pat Richardson. How could I get that wrong? Pat Riding, your time is coming. Please sit. You can sit. I have a few brief remarks to make. They begin with good evening. Good evening, my name is Ann Smith, and as chair of the Ontario Squash Hall Board of Governors, I am delighted to welcome you. Well, I'm not Ann Smith, and I don't have a Scottish accent. She has passed these remarks on to me, as she is isolating also with COVID. The Hall of Fame was created in 2005 by Squash Ontario. It's managed by an independent board of governors who is responsible for the selection of individuals nominated to the Hall of Fame. This occurs every 2 years. We missed 2021 due to the pandemic, and for a time wondered if we would be able to hold this one. Given the major disruption the pandemic had on everyone in so many different ways, it is terrific that the event is occurring tonight, and wonderful to see so many friends of squash here to celebrate these 4 incredible individuals. The qualities outstanding and exceptional are key criteria for the selection to the Hall of Fame, which has a prestigious membership and in which it is an honor to belong. When you hear of the unique and exceptional achievements, talents, and abilities that they have brought to the squash community, I think you will agree that they are worthy inductees to the Hall of Fame. We had a number of nominations this year, and we're very stringent and we're very picky. And so to be selected, we believe, is a great honor. The Board of Governors, just so you know, is Ann Smith, who is the chair, and the glue. Myself, Penny Glover, Peter Hall, and Tony Swift. And Rob Brooks. See, Ann should have been here. We're just delighted to be here at the Granite Club. It's a wonderful, wonderful venue, and it complements the importance of this event for us. Since the Hall of Fame inception, Squash Ontario has been, and we sincerely appreciate the partnership that we get from the administrative side of things. And we get that particularly from Lindsay Yates and Lauren Sackvey. And in particular, a big thank you to Lindsay Yates, who rides herd on us. And as a cat lover, this pains me to say, but we are a bit like herding cats. I would like to acknowledge Gordon Campbell, President of Squash Ontario. Where's Gordon? Okay. Steve Wren, the immediate past President of Squash Canada. Lolly Gillen, Secretary General of the Pan Am Squash Association. And also thank Derek Riley, Chair of the Ontario Jesters, and John Hungerford, Chair of Canadian Jesters, for their help in promoting this event. Thank you to Josh Janot of Squash Streaming. He's live streaming this ceremony tonight, so we are big time now. And we thank Josh for this. And finally, a big, big hand for Ian Goodtimes, the piper, who opened the ceremony with the emotional, awesome, and haunting tones of the bagpipes. It's my pleasure now to introduce my friend and my colleague, Peter Hall, who will act as your Master of Ceremonies this evening. He's well known to the squash community, a member of the Hall of Fame, and who will set the stage for this evening. Welcome, Peter.
Good evening and welcome to the Squash Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the class of 2022. It's my honor and pleasure to host this, our 9th induction ceremony. Currently there are 28, soon to be 32 members of the Hall, starting with the class of 2005. The Ontario Squash Hall of Fame was created by Squash Ontario to promote a greater awareness of the history of squash in Ontario by recognizing individuals for their outstanding achievements and exceptional contributions to the game and to preserve the heritage of our great game. I would like to recognize and thank the Wakil family, owners of the White Oaks Resort and Spa in Niagara-on-the-Lake, for providing a permanent home for the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame, which opened on June 2nd, 2007. I encourage you to visit the recently renovated Hall of Fame on your next visit to the Niagara region. I also invite you to look at our website to view the photo galleries for the current members of the Hall. Special thanks to Lindsay Yates from Squash Ontario and Al Hunt for their dedicated efforts in creating these photo galleries over the past 5 years. At this time, I'd like to recognize and thank our roving photographer, Karen Galati, who has captured Hall of Fame memories for the past 3 inductions. Thank you, Karen. With respect to tonight's schedule of inductions, Leslie Freeman will be the first, and we're going to move it up. Instead of holding it, the salad course is delayed a bit, so we're going to move the introduction of Leslie up, and followed by Murray Christensen and Penny Glover, following dinner, and Pat Richardson over dessert and coffee. Enjoy the evening. I'll be with you shortly.
Excellent.
Sing a song, come on.
Could I have your attention, please? It is indeed an honor and a distinct pleasure for me to introduce our first inductee from the class of 2022, Leslie Freeman. Unfortunately, for medical reasons, Leslie's unable to be with us. Pinch hitting for Leslie tonight is her husband, a squash player, and good friend, Tim Mallory.
Well, I really owe that all to 13.
Thanks to longtime Granite Club squash professional and videographer of late, Jungle Jim Patton, a video interview with Leslie was recently produced for tonight's induction. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Well, I really owe that all to Bert Keane.
Bert Keane, the Bert Keane.
The Bert Keane. I was playing badminton out at Regency Rackets Club in Brampton, where I grew up. After I graduated university, and I played competitive badminton as a junior and then in university, and came back and was playing badminton at Regency. And Bert was the young squash pro there, and basically came and dragged me off of the badminton court and said, "You have to come and start playing squash," and which he did. And then after he left, Rob Lefko was there, who you know very well.
Yeah.
For a while. It was really Bert. Bert came, and we remained lifelong friends, until his passing. Very, very good friends. And he really was, he didn't let it go. I mean, I was like, I have no interest in playing squash. Why would I go back in that dingy court, back in the bowels of the club? I'm a badminton player, but he persisted, and the rest is history.
Wow, you talk about another great ambassador of our sport, and just that little thing that Bert did with you and the impact it made on your life, and so many other people too, right? It's all connected. So that's amazing. I did not know that story. That's really incredible.
I mean, I love how competitive squash was. I mean, I'm a very competitive person in, probably everything I do. I loved how competitive it was, but I think I really liked the nature of the doubles game, especially, the setting up the play, the angles, the reading your opponents. I really am very analytical, and I guess it appealed to me because of that. The game appealed to me. It was extremely interesting to me to be able to figure out how to win. I think the great thing about our game and squash doubles is that when people come off the court, irregardless of how the match went on the court, the sportsman-like behavior takes over at that point, and everybody puts the match behind them and moves on and has a social, and sets up a social game for the following week. I think that's the nature of our game. So well, of course, I mean, Tim and I met at the Mayfair Club, back in the 90s, and the rest is history, of course. But yeah, he was always there for me, supporting me every single match, whether it was the first match of the tournament, the last match, if it was the finals, if we were lucky enough to get there. We always joke around about him carrying my bag, but he did, and that was great because I'm tired. He knew my game and knows my game better than anyone, and was really able to, critical times in critical matches, not just for me but for my partner, pick out, give us pointers and suggestions that, in many cases turned around matches. So there was that, but just all the emotional support. And, I often didn't, I was emotional after losses and emotional after wins, both, but he was always there consistently supporting me. So. Well, I think for the young players, today it seems like everybody wants to be super aggressive and hit winners and go for their shots all the time. And I think I've always preached patience on the court and setting up the play. And I actually recently had this conversation with Steph Hewitt about the change in the game. And I think that my advice to young players is that don't force it, set the play up. You have a partner, make sure that you are not putting your partner in jeopardy. It's a doubles game, and that's how it should be played, as a partnership. Maybe in the early days, have one less glass of red wine.
So as they say, without further ado, I will pass it on to a wonderful human being and an absolute dominant force on the squash court, Ontario Squash Hall of Famer, Leslie Freeman.
First of all, thank you, Jim, for nominating me and being so persistent in the nomination process through COVID and cancellation of the event. I feel incredibly honored to be recognized by the Ontario Hall of Fame. I think about all the squash players and builders and coaches who've been received this award prior to me, and I certainly don't feel like I'm as deserving as many of those recipients before. However, what a great honor, and thank you very much. Memories flowing for me, and brought back great memories looking over the list. I have a picture book that I created with pictures, and thank you very much for making this happen.
Well, I'm just so glad we were able to make it happen, and I think I can speak on behalf of the squash community when I say that we love you, we respect you, and we will never forget the impact that you have made on our game of squash, on and off the court. So thank you for everything and all that you've done.
Just take my hand and fly up through the dreams where the skies are so.
A special thank you to Jungle Jim Patton. Jim, stand up and be recognized. Before highlighting Leslie's squash playing accomplishments, I'd like to speak to you about her many contributions to the game. Leslie was co-founder and convener of the Toronto and District Women's Doubles League in 1999 and was a member of the Squash Doubles Ranking Committee. In 2008, Leslie was named women's captain of the inaugural Can-Am Cup for doubles competition by the top men and women squash players in Canada and the US, hosted in the first year by the University Club of Boston, and she has played in 5 Can-Am Cups matches since that time. In 2010, Leslie was presented with the Award of Merit by the Province of Ontario for her squash accomplishments. She became a certified provincial doubles referee in 2010 and a certified national doubles referee in 2012, and has been active in refereeing provincial and national doubles tournaments ever since. Leslie was nominated as a jester in 2016, recognizing her contributions to the game both on and off the court. In 2008, Leslie was inducted into the Mayfair Lakeshore Squash Hall of Fame, joining Gary Waite, Barb Cooper, and Robbie Usher. Now, can Leslie play? She can play. In her squash career, she has won the following major doubles championships: 3 Worlds, 1 US, 18 Canadians, and 22 provincials. 44 in total. And 10 of those were in open competition. In addition, she has been a finalist in 24 major doubles competitions. Not to be forgotten, Leslie won her share of tournaments such as the Marianne Caldwell, the Hamilton Thistle Invitation, the Smitty, the Frank McKay, and was a 3-time winner of the Granite Club's Conveners Cup. A player of Leslie's caliber attracted great partners such as Jay Gillespie, Jim Patton, Mike Tanner, Steve Heisey, and the great U.S. player Morris Clothier. On the mix side, and Robin Morrison, Lindsay Hermer-Bell, Ann Braley, and Karen Jerome in women's doubles. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to a great squash player and even better person, Leslie Freeman, represented by her fine husband, squash player Tim Mallory.
You have big font. I wish I had big font. I've learned a few things tonight. I should have had very large font like Peter has. It's 4 lines per page. I also find that the words that I put together have already been partially shown in the video, so that might be some repetitiveness. Anyways, I'm Tim Mallory. I'm Leslie's husband, sometimes known as Tim Freeman. Again, you heard about Bert. This was 45 years ago that what wasn't mentioned was that she'd just come off winning 2 Ontario doubles collegiate university badminton titles when she went to when she ended up at the Regency Club, and Bert took her over to the dark side to squash. So she was already pretty proficient with her racket, and Bert gave her some great pointers and great coaching, but then he left her on her own, and eventually she moved to the Lakeshore. When the Lakeshore opened in '87, she moved there a year later, and when we set up a doubles court, she was all over it. She got onto the doubles court, and she loved doubles. She loved everything about the doubles. And her career went on to prove that. On the squash court, Leslie she not only enjoyed the winning, but also learned from the losing. And she excelled at discipline and patience and strategy and commitment. She was a very real student of the game, and it made a difference in her matches. As many of you know, Leslie is a serious competitor and contender, and many partners have experienced the Leslie Freeman evil eye. Many. And some husbands. I did actually get the opportunity to play with Leslie in one tournament. It was the 60-plus Ontario Vets, and we made it to the finals and got beaten by Craig Benson and Lolly Gillen. A huge disappointment. A number of Leslie's, as I looked around and came around, I noticed how many of Leslie's former squash partners are here, and that helped her in her winnings of many titles, and so there's a few of them, and I'll just the first one was, of course, Jim Patton. Leslie played many times with Jim Patton, and they won their fair share of titles. She loved playing with Jim because he was just so much fun on the court. Just always upbeat, always just a great guy on the court. She loved playing with Jennifer Smith, who is also here. Jennifer was a strong, left-handed left-waller, one of the best in the country, and Leslie and Jennifer certainly had their championships together. She loved playing with Lindsay Hermer-Bell, who was fun at the parties and after the parties. At the tournaments. She loved playing with Robin Morrison for her tenacity. She appreciated James Hewitt for taking on an older woman in the mixed tournament. I think that was the Ontario's. She played with Jungle Jay Gillespie and loved him for his analytic perfection. Definitely a Jayism. She loved playing with Ann Braley for her calm demeanor on the court. And she loved playing with Don Benson, who Don, I think, is here, because he was just such a good-looking guy. Other partners who she's played with, and many of them are here: Annette White, Karen Jerome, Mike Tanner, Kathy Tuckwell, Scott Dolmage, Michael Pernack, Jan Taylor, Victor Harding, Todd Binns, Pat Richardson, and Steve Heisey, to name a few. Yes, my wife played around. There's no question. Sorry if I missed anybody that on the list. Anyways, I've just asked to be quick, and Leslie is truly honored and humbled to be inducted into the Squash Ontario Hall of Fame. She would like to thank Jim Patton for doing all the work in representing her as a candidate to the board of the Hall of Fame. She would also like to thank the Hall of Fame board members, who are Peter Hall, Penny Glover, Ann Smith, Sherry Funston, Rob Brooks, and Tony Smith, for all the work they do, and also for their consideration of her as a worthy inductee. Leslie is just thrilled and grateful to accept this induction, and she'd like to just say, oh, and by the way, she's watching, so hi, honey. She's watching at home. So thanks very much.
This is it. Okay, let's go over here.
Okay.
Enjoy the evening.
So now we're fine until the next one. I'm gonna go look at the video that we've created. When they're bringing around the dinners, they're gonna bring us one. So can we get them both on your table, perhaps? Or should I move this a little bit? Daryl, I want to check the video and to see how it sounds. We do get dinner. Thank you. Thank you.
To you.
quite good. Bruce, I'm going to put it on your table. Bruce is a little... When they speak, it comes out of the house speakers into my other sound recording. I think it might be getting a little bit of an echo. There's a little delay from your phone. It takes about half a second to get to mine and then into the system. Pop or anything? Any updates? Are they watching? Ask me if she wants me to do anything special. We were trying to get lots of crowd shots. I played your video and then I wanted to get the crowd reaction, but there was a little bit of a an audio echo, some weird stuff with the agent. Still part of the fine, but I think it's pretty good now. It was really cool. Everybody here was like really, as you know, everybody here after the situation. So, thank you very much. We wish you could be here.
Thanks ever so much.
What are you doing? You're sending it back? Oh, it auto deposited. You sure I don't owe money from some other time? You sure I don't owe money from some other time? Take it, take it. Forget about it. Take it. Save it for good measure for next time. Okay. Don't worry about it. Like it's gonna take me. I'd rather never mind. Take it. You need it. Trust me. You need it. You need it more. Right there. Okay, Bruce, take it. Here, take it. No, I absolutely know. We can skip all that stuff. I understand. We're gonna try and get some bread.
Well, we'll take someone about this. We haven't finished the presentation.
Water too. Maybe. We're gonna get some leftover bread. Alright, I'll just go with mine. I don't know why, but that camera, I have a microphone on top. Unless the batteries are brand new, I hear a little squeal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Unless the battery's brand new, for some reason you get a high-pitched squeal. So she must have heard that. And maybe it was really apparent. I'm not sure. But I only had it up for a little bit, and I switched over to this one. That's why it's gone. That's why this one is right now. Hello. And that's going well.
How's everything going in Central Intelligence? Watchers, just out of curiosity, probably not.
We at the moment have 9, and we had peak 21. Okay. So this is where I would say this week.
Okay. But the nice thing, it'll be there for people to watch after, right?
Yeah, sitting right there. It's getting a recording.
It'll get lots of views, I imagine.
They'll probably get as many as the Hall of Fame did recorded a few years ago. Probably now at around 300.
Oh, really? That's it, eh? Oh, well. Oh, well, at least
it's
there.
They're good at it. I started doing edits. It's pretty funny.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I will watch it then. Sure,
Make a note, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, they do that. Okay.
You're still doing this or dabbling?
I was really getting into it last year during lockdown. I streamed 40.
Because you were thinking of getting out of it. Is that right?
And then, unfortunately, the squash aspect, I had to sell all my equipment. So, but it was aging as well. So
Okay, so
what we need is an angel investor, lots of money, coming in and save the day.
all right. Well, if I know anyone, I'll let you know.
I mean, it's always been a hobby, so we'll see if there's if they want me to do 3D again, then we'll just have to figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, I'm chairman of the LAPM.
Oh, yeah. Is that going on this year?
Halloween.
You know what? I went to where you were saying the other night. I didn't miss actually playing in this tournament.
Well, I'm not the captain. Alex is. Alex Carter. I talked to him about it.
But if they're, that's going to be here, right?
Cricket club, yeah.
Like we could stream something. I could set something like that.
I want to know what kind of cost.
I mean, it's not nothing that can be managed.
Because we have a budget. We have a budget.
There's a budget that we can talk about. It depends. Like how much. If I don't want you to show up.
I don't know what you can do. I don't know what we
If
need.
you showed up to me, if you wanted to make graphics, actually, I do we can chat.
Okay. Yeah, we need to chat. We got 5 months, so.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good.
Good. Everything else all right?
Still going.
Attaboy.
Still kicking.
Attaboy. Keep it going.
playing a lot?
Lost some weight.
I think, how is you back in playing squash? Doubles?
Well, you know, I injured myself. I'm not playing
The
again.
head? Or another one? Remember the head you had?
Well, lucky they had it.
Are you guys
But, you
getting...
know, every fucking second week something happens. As you get older. How are you doing?
Running. Good. I started running.
No, I've got a peloton. So I'm on the peloton. Yeah, it's all good. I've just got to make sure I get stronger.
Yeah, that's the thing. You should you gotta keep going. Swimming. You get it. Yes, okay, we're doing it. Really good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's really black on 50. There you go. Enjoy. I know that is good. Should be splash.
Well, he's a paralegal, so we had a problem. He fight for it. He fights the little guy. What are we doing?
Yeah, I was coaching you next year as well. Me too. I was a coach 2020 and 2021. That was my last year. I couldn't coach. No, like, they didn't let, a month before it started. Couldn't believe it. A month before the school started. People are
are the originals.
Those are the ones you want to hear. You know that feeling. Now you need to start singing the blues. I thought that it would go. I thought that the speech would be ongoing. You on Lamp Street still?
143 Lamb. You got my number?
I think so. I think we have to go by one day and see what's going on over there.
What about you? Where do you live these days?
I'm young in Shepherd area.
You weren't that far north before, right?
No, I was in young in Davis.
Yeah, right. So are you in an apartment or condo?
I'm in a house. I'm renting a room.
You're not with your dad anymore?
He's moved on to the next level.
He got rid of you?
He died.
He died? Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
2 years ago. He actually moved into his own apartment. 3 years ago. She was still alive. We were all living together. He moved into an apartment.
Wasn't that old though? When did he die?
He knew his stuff. He was sick for years.
You know what? You guys were with him for a long time.
Yeah,
That's great.
It's his time. Unless he was able to properly.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you have your seats? If there are any basketball fans in the audience, they're coming back. It's the end of the third quarter. Philadelphia 99, Toronto 78. But I know the three-point shots are coming out in the fourth quarter. It's a pleasure for me to introduce our second inductee from the class of 2022, Mr. Murray Christensen. Murray is regarded as one of the great promoters of squash in Ontario and Canada. He was the builder, owner, and operator of three of the best-known commercial squash clubs in Ontario. He ran some of the world's most prestigious squash events in Canada and hired top squash professionals that made outstanding contributions to our squash community, namely Mike Way, Steve Wren, Murray Lilly, Anna Pandos, and George Miller. Murray opened the Valhalla Squash Club in 1973, and in 1979 and 81 organized the $50,000 McGuinness World Squash Championships on Canada's first portable court. In addition, he hosted the Men and Cup Classic at Valhalla and Carlson Court and the 1985 World Masters Softball Tournament at Valhalla. In '76, Murray opened Bridlewood Squash Club with 5 international and 4 North American courts. In 1977, Bridlewood hosted the ISRF's 6th World Amateur Squash Championships. Murray opened the Carlson Court Club in 1984 with 8 glass backwall softball courts and a permanent 3 glass wall exhibition court with stadium seating for 350. Murray hosted the $70,000 Drakkar Noir Canadian Open for a few years and was responsible for organizing some of the first televised squash matches. Comments from members, squash professionals, and staff describe Murray as tireless, generous, extremely modest, and a wonderful builder of relationships with members, staff, and professionals alike. Please join me in welcoming Murray Christensen into the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame.
Can I put my thing here? Go ahead. Thanks. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Anne, and thank you, the board the board members for Squash Ontario, and thank you, Pat, for nominating me. It was a huge surprise. Congratulations to you, Pat, too, for tonight, and to Leslie, and congratulations to Penny, my friend from many, many years, who can't be here tonight either. In 2004, I was in England at the Jesters Jubilee, and we were lucky enough to play tennis on the grass courts at Queen's Club. I played with Fred Reid, and Cass Quinn played with Penny's brother Morris. Morris was the Secretary-Treasurer of the UK Jesters and our host. Cass was serving and he hit Morris in the back of the head with the ball. We were never invited back. Penny, that's for you. After Anne phoned me to tell me the news about my induction into the Hall of Fame, I mentioned to a friend of mine that I felt very humbled to have been selected. My friend quickly reminded me that I'd never been humble in my life. Just get over it and enjoy the moment. So here I am. People often ask how I managed to get into the squash business. Well, my journey began in 1973 when I arrived here with $75 and holes in my shoes. Poor Murray. That's not actually true. I actually had $100. My first job was at the Toronto Home Builders Association, and Toronto was booming, as it always is, and there I met some amazing builders developers. One of them was building an office complex out at Bloor 27. There were still apple orchards about a mile away. And with all my charm, I managed to convince them to build 6 American squash courts. So that was the beginning of Valhalla. I originally came from New Zealand, and in New Zealand, I belonged to a wonderful family tennis club where the emphasis was on being competitive, but also the social aspect. Sundays were round robins, which brought people together, whether you were a novice or a elite level player, and it was great. It was my goal at Valhalla to achieve this atmosphere, and I think we did a pretty good job of it. In 1977, I opened Bridlewood Squash Club to much fanfare as we were opening the club, hosting the Men's World Amateur Singles and Teams tournaments. At that time, professionals and amateurs were not allowed to compete against each other. Pat was one of the first pros at Bridlewood. That's why he nominated me, as he said I still owed him money for lessons. Ian Stewart, Susan Swift, Frank Bailey, all Hall of Famers, were very involved, as Ian had just recently become the president of the World Squash Federation. Frank and Libby Bailey had the best parties. This was about the time Squash Ontario came into being. Ian Stewart was very passionate about Squash Ontario. Where would we be today if not for Squash Ontario? In 1979, I opened Applewood Squash Club, and the pro there was Murray Lilly, a top 10 player in the world. Then in 1985 came Carlson Court, built for tournaments that could accommodate about 350 spectators around a 3-sided glass-walled court. We had an amazing team there: Billy Pryor, Jerry Lawler, Stevie Wren, and Mo My Glass is Empty Milne. We also had Barbara, our pet New Zealand merino sheep. Well, Steve and I are both Kiwis, so we needed that. We hosted the Canadian Open in 1987, the Menin Cup, and the Draconnois. Over the years, squash has had a variety of liquor and beer companies as sponsors: Molson's, Labatt's, Amstel, Jack Daniels, Myers Rum, and of course McGuinness. At Carlson, I was given these small vials of Draconnois, so I mixed them with ice and Coke and handed them out to the amazing team. They thought they were great. A week later, Billy told us that Draconnois was a men's cologne, not to be taken internally. Now, what happened at Valhalla stays at Valhalla. Sadly, 6 months ago, the Valhalla complex was demolished to make way for more condos, which we need. Most people through the Valhalla knew my late wife, Avril, and she was sort of the soul of Valhalla for many years. When someone mentions they're a member of Valhalla way back, in order to quantify the number of years, they have to remember the fridge downstairs. That's where we sold beer for $1 a bottle. Eat your heart out, Doug Ford. Valhalla boys still meet every week for coffee. Most of them been members for 45 years plus. And there's a large number of the girls who still get together a few times a year. A good number of them are here tonight, and I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Believe me, if there was a Valhalla Hall of Fame, you'd all be in it. Valhalla Pros, we had Anna Pandos, and we had that amazing man, Hall of Famer, Jim Mason. Get the kids out of the law courts, onto the squash courts. Look me in the eye when we shake hands. A lot of people here, younger people here, have all been familiar with that, with Jim. And of course, we had Mike Way. Mike was coming tonight, and he sent me an email at 1:30 saying that he had a better offer. So that's why he's not here. But going back a few years ago, I was at White Oaks at a junior tournament, and Mike was there, and I think he'd had a couple of beers. And he introduced me to someone and told this person, "This is Murray Christensen. He taught me all I know." A couple of years later, we were in Hong Kong at a squash function, and the person sitting next to me said, "Did I know Jonathan Power?" And I said, "Yes, because Jonathan had just won a tournament there." And he said, "Did I know Mike Way?" I said, "Did I know Mike Way? I taught him all he knows." By the way, I have a picture of Mike and drag, and I'm accepting bids on it. In fact, I'm sorry to say I gave lessons when we first opened Valhalla. I charged $6 for 40 minutes. Quite a few people wanted their money back. But I was never sued. Family members were popular at Valhalla and produced some pretty good juniors. We had Max Withers, Shauna Keating, Danny Vranicek, and many others. And we had this blonde kid who used to hang around the club all the time after school looking for games. That's Scott Stoneberg. Scotty, a lot of people know Scott. And we also employed a lot of people, students, kids over the years, and it's really gratifying to see many of them have done so well in the real world. Valhalla hosted numerous major tournaments, the 1985 World Masters, the Jack Daniels, and the Menon Cups. I don't actually know what was the most popular thing at Valhalla, the squash courts, the bar, or the sauna. In 1978, I was sitting in the sauna and I asked a sales guy from the Guinness if they'd be interested in sponsoring a tournament. He said, "Ask Jack." I said, "Who's Jack?" And he said, "Well, he's the president of the Guinness and he's sitting right next to me." I didn't even know he was a member of Valhalla. So he said, "Make an appointment and come and see me." So a couple of days later, we met in his office. I didn't recognize him. He had clothes on. Well, that was the beginning of the McGuinness tournament and a chance for our top Canadian players to compete with the rest of the world's best. The first McGuinness was held at Valhalla. By then we had 8 international courts with 2 of them good for viewing. In 1991, we built a portable court at the Etobicoke Olympium. And in 1983, I think it was, we built a court at the Columbus Center. A major first was having TSN televise the finals. It was great exposure for the game at a time when squash was really booming. I just wanted to say the Toronto and District Squash League played a major role for Squash Ontario in that if you played T&D, which I'm sure a lot of you guys, people here tonight, played T&D League. You had to be a member of Squash Ontario. I'd just like to acknowledge the contribution to the league made by a couple of guys, Jim Rowlands, Bill Sears, and Gord Robinson over the years. The squash business was not easy, I tell you. Long hours, struggling with rent and payroll. Would I do it again? You bet your sweet patootie I would. We had a lot of fun along the way, and I'm most grateful to you all. Thank you so much.
We'll leave it there for a minute and come on over here for the picture. Okay? Put them here so you're not holding them. Let's come over here. That's yours. Thank you. Container for it. Oh, and that poster at the front desk is there for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome. You want your notes then?
Yeah, I'll take them. Thank you.
Okay. Sherry. No, Sherry Funkston. Yeah, please. Okay? I'll do it, and then you'll come and follow me, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? It's indeed a pleasure for me to introduce our next inductee from the class of 2022, international squash competitor, Penny Glover. Unfortunately, Penny is out of action due to COVID, but will be represented by Sherry Funston with her best Welsh accent. Penny was born in Wales and played her squash and learned how to referee in Cardiff in 1964. She played her first match for the Welsh international women's team in 1965 against Scotland. Penny went on to represent Wales in 1966 and 1967. Penny came from a sporting family. Her mother played international field hockey. Her father played cricket for a British county team. Her uncle captained both the Welsh national rugby team and the Cambridge University cricket team. And brother Morris was secretary-treasurer of the UK Jesters for many, many years. As you can see, she came from good stock. In 1968, Wales' loss was Canada's gain when Penny emigrated to Canada, only to find out that she had to learn how to play hardball squash at the Toronto Lawn Tennis Club. She won the Ontario Women's Open in 1970 before moving to Ottawa, which coincided with the Canadian introduction of the international softball game. During the 70s and 1980s, Penny became a trailblazer for squash, both on and off the court. She won the Ontario Women's Closed 5 years in a row, the Ontario Women's Open in 76 and 77, and was selected to play for 4 Canadian teams, touring Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, and was proud to captain the 1978 team. In 1979, Canada came 4th in the inaugural Women's Team Championships. Penny won the Canadian 40 plus in 1983 and 1984, and the Canadian 45 plus in 1989 and 90. In 1989, Penny was a finalist in the World's Women's Masters held in the Netherlands. Penny played an active role in the development of squash in Canada, starting with the introduction of the softball game, and was very involved in founding the Ottawa and District Squash Association, serving as president in 1978. In the late 1970s, she got involved in officiating and the officiating certification program and was appointed as a national A1 referee and was chosen as a national instructor and assessor, a role that she continues to fulfill today. Penny has received a number of awards for her many contributions to our game over the past 50 years. City of Ottawa, 3 awards. Province of Ontario, 3 awards. Squash Ontario, 2 awards. Penny became a jester in 2008 and was inducted into the Squash Canada Hall of Fame in 2014. Please join me in welcoming this great player and well-decorated volunteer to our game, Penny Glover, represented by Jerry Funston. Yes.
Boing. These are directly Penny's remarks, and I'll read them to you. I'm very sorry not to be with you today on this particularly special occasion. I have had a positive COVID test, although I have no symptoms, so I must follow the isolation rules. It is special to me that the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame has decided to include me amongst its honorees. I am very moved that I am to join the people who are already recognized in the hall, and I thank the Board of Governors who excluded me from one of our meetings for this honor. I have been very fortunate to be involved in squash from the time I arrived in Canada in late 1968. The game grew, now she throws this big word in on me, exponentially in the 70s and was changing from the North American hardball to the international softball game. I was very lucky to participate in that expansion and became involved as a competitive player at the local, provincial, and national levels, winning some titles and playing on the national team from 76 to 81. I was involved at all levels in the development of the infrastructure for the game during that period, particularly being involved in the creation of our first officiating program. We were very busy throughout the time trying to keep up with the fast expanding game. Over the years, I interacted with so many wonderful volunteers and staff, too many to name, and I thank them all for their great help and support. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Well spoken. We'll take a break for dessert and coffee, at which time we'll hear from Pat Richardson.
smooth enough picture. I would have to. We have to figure out a way to get a better. To get you. I think you have to have a real camera on a gimbal. Like on one of those things you can carry. Yeah. This is not really big though. You're getting a fantastic picture out of this. So it's not really huge. You're representing your Scottish roots.
I am. I'm trying to. I should have worn my kilt.
Good. Enjoying the great dessert. What's the dessert?
Cream brulee.
Oh. Usually you bring it a bowl. Who are you sitting with? Who are you sitting with?
Rob.
It's good to see your kids. They weren't playing in the tournament.
Mo was. He was playing with his mom. She went for the younger model.
Nice. It's good to have choices.
I was supposed to play with her. She said, no, I need some legs on my...
Your kids made you obsolete.
Exactly.
Working out, you hit the gym.
It's all the bloody years of taking them to tournaments. This is what I get for it, right?
You get it, yeah. Well, now it's your turn. You get back on the board. Your kids are
Yeah, the Sens moved off to Vancouver.
Okay. And so Mo was playing that baseball?
Richmond Hill.
Was he playing any doubles?
Yeah. Well, the club championships are going on right now.
Well, be your fourth.
I will. I know. Rivas supposed to play. We'll do Rivas, you, I, and Willie.
Oh, yeah? Really? Is he playing over there? Okay, me and Willie. Me and Willie against you and Rivas.
No, I'm taking Willie. You and Rivas. You can take Rivas.
All right. I'll take Rivas. No problem. Hey, Rivas and I have played together before.
No, I need Willie if I need to. He's playing to cover the 3/4 of the game.
Is he playing? No, yeah. How often is he there?
Well, he's there now. It's like he's retired there.
He's a pro. He's a pro.
Yeah. He was in Ireland.
Yeah, he just got back. Yeah, his birthday.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was supposed to call him up today. We're doing some photo shoots at the club. We're redesigning the website.
memberships to save money, and just I'm waiting to see what happens before I do anything else. But I'm probably something at the end of the season. Just figure out some things. We're all the standings.
Looking for something? I don't have anything, but
I have some options. I'm considering something like doing streaming like this on the outdoor events. This kind of
what do you charge for a session?
Depends on the size.
So we're gonna do the we're hosting the IMAX.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we should line you up.
What is it starting? You're gonna do the stream of the what's the other one called? It's here in Toronto.
Yeah. So we're hosting the IMAX.
So you wanna stream the games or you wanna stream like the ceremony?
Well, it's 4 days, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maybe we do the Saturday, Sunday. Okay, fine. Do the live stream.
Like if there's a early talk, take an email with the dates and figure out exactly what's required. And what you guys want.
Yeah, and we don't have restrictions on backs and all that.
Yeah. And a little bit of a budget.
So we'll figure it out. Maybe we can look for sponsors to actually pay for it.
Yeah, they can put their logo on it. Yeah, the cover. And they can charge them.
Okay, so give me an estimate.
It really depends on what exactly you want. Like,
Let me talk to Riva. He's the captain.
if you want to let me offer doubles with like
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah, and then we can talk about it.
I'll put a little note here to see what
Because the club championships going on right now. Okay. So the courts are a bit tight. Okay. Okay.
stand after them as well? Hey, Josh, thank you.
Yeah, so you're on next. I have your name all written out. You're gonna be
Today?
You don't pack, right? Never mind. I'll tell you on the way home. It's a creme brulee.
Ladies and gentlemen, could you have your seats, please? Would you take your seats, please? Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our fourth and final inductee for the class of 2022, Mr. Pat Richardson. Pat started playing squash in 1969, way back then, at the Jericho Tennis Club in Vancouver, BC, where he was the only junior at the club. He was fortunate to be included in a Saturday evening squash program at the Vancouver Rackets Club, playing with the DeSaulnier brothers. Pretty good competition. In addition, Pat would bus to Seattle to take lessons from the great Yusuf Khan. Pat played on the Pacific Northwest circuit in the early to mid-70s. Pat graduated from the University of Western Ontario in '77, where he was coached by the legendary Hall of Famer Jack Ferris. Pat turned pro in 1978, but he was a bit of a rounder, serving 3 months at the Squash Academy, 5 months at Bridlewood, 10 months at Cote de Liesse in Montreal, before finally settling down at the MAAA in Montreal for 6 years. On the heels of Barry Binsk, who was the pro there at the time. His work with juniors was the start of a 30-year coaching career at U.S., Canadian, and provincial junior championships. In 1985, Pat was hired as the head pro at the Toronto Cricket Club, where he had a 23-year reign with a commitment to junior squash. His junior coaching record was off the wall with Canadian, U.S., and Ontario championships. Some of those great juniors that you will remember are Jeremy and Jordana Freiberg, Mike and Sarah Leckie, Robert, Brian, and Carly Hong, Rebecca Hazel, and Will Mariani, to name a few. As a player, Pat had a fine record, winning the BC Under-19 Junior in '72, 4 West Coast Open titles from '76 to '78, a U.S. teaching professional title in 1980, a World's 30-plus doubles championship in 2002, and 7 Smitty Open doubles championships. Turning now to Pat's committee work, he was chair of 3 Canadian doubles, draw master of 20 Canadian championships, manager of 4 world doubles, and squash Canadian doubles chair from 2012 to 2017. In closing, over the years, Pat was the recipient of 7 awards for his many contributions to the game. Please welcome a fine player, outstanding coach, great administrator, and a friend of mine, Pat Richardson.
That'd be great. Thank you. Peter, thank you for that kind introduction. I'd hoped to use that moment to make Eric Baldwin say nice things about me, but it was pretty fun having you do it. Okay, you know, there you go. This is quite a room, and I really appreciate the turnout. The last time this many people were watching me do anything, I was playing Jahangir Khan. So I got to think this is going to go better. So I'd like to thank the Board of Governors and Lindsay and Lauren for all their work putting this evening together. And Jimbo, thank you for nominating me. Thank you. I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees. And Leslie, I wish you were here to share the warmth and camaraderie in the room tonight. Look, I'm looking around the room and I see so many people here tonight that are important to me. I really appreciate you coming. I see juniors that I coached, people that I worked with, and players that I competed with. And in the spirit of this evening, anyone here that ever called me because you didn't like your draw or you wanted to change your time, I hope you liked your dinner. What a wonderful game we play. Somehow, squash attracts people that are fun and outgoing, inclined to give back, and with the really notable exception of this evening, seemingly incapable of registering for anything by a clearly publicized deadline. yet hard to stay mad at. Look across the table, so many of our greatest friendships started on the squash court. I was in Vancouver in '78 when I phoned Clive to ask if there were any squash jobs in Toronto. And he said, actually, we need a guy. So I started to work for Billy McDonnell at the Squash Academy. 3 months later, I had lunch with Murray, and Murray offered me the job as co-professional with Susan Swift at the Bridlewood Club, which is a very appealing job offer because this one had a salary. And then a few months later, the phone rang, and I moved to Montreal and the MAA, and then the phone rang, and this time it was Squash Canada, asking me to join Tony Swift on a coaching tour of the Maritimes. You remember that? Anyways, I can't imagine how many people they called before they got to the 23-year-old version of me. But off I went with Tony, and we were subjected to just an overwhelming combination of maritime and squash hospitality. We gave lessons, Tony gave a clinic each evening, and I listened. And a few months later, I attended Tony's first level 3 coaching course. So my point is, if you took a lesson from me from the time I called Clive to the time I met Tony, you too deserve your money back. And again, don't get excited, lessons were $5. So, look, I want to be clear what it means to me to be recognized as a coach. You can point at a builder's contributions and you can list a player's championships, but a coach's role is subjective because it's 1 degree removed from the final result. It's hard for me to imagine Brian Hong as anything but amazing, no matter who he met Thursdays at 5 o'clock. I have to ask myself, would Rebecca Hazel, Robert Hong, and Ryan Osborne been even better if they'd been working with somebody else? Another question I have is, would Mike Leckie have won that US Junior if I'd warned him of the perils of staying with David Kay? I'm not the one on the court, heart-pounding, maintaining the discipline. I can tell a player the kind of music to play, but when the door closes, it's up to them. The measure of a coach comes from the perception and the lasting impression they leave on players, parents, and other coaches. So for me to be here tonight talking to you means a lot to me. Thank you. I would like to thank my wonderful wife, Sandra, for her unwavering support of my career. The first 8 years I was at the cricket, we lived in Montreal, so we went back and forth a lot, and Sandra would often attend tournaments if we were going to be apart for too long. We got married in New York during the Tournament of Champions, and the next morning got on separate flights to Toronto and Montreal. Next week is the Tournament of Champions again, and our 33rd anniversary. Okay. I love it. I love it when somebody reminds me of something I said to them years ago, and it doesn't have to be squash related, it doesn't have to be constructive. But just before COVID, I bumped into Carly Hong. And when Carly was a junior, there were some days that the crew we were working with at the time didn't share my idea of hard work. But proof that there's karma in this world, Carly now works with young people, and I'm guessing there can be some challenging days, because after one of those days, she told her charges, as I had once told mine, "You guys are turning me into the adult I hated when I was a kid." Okay, look, I hear it said that you can tell a lot about a person by who their friends are. So I'm going to do some name dropping here in an effort to associate myself with people I admire, and I'm going to thank them at the same time. Debbie O'Neill. What a treat to spend so much time with you. Planning months ahead, questioning our sanity weeks ahead, starting tournaments with a rallying cry, budget, smudget, and then finishing with a drink on Sunday, just us after everybody's gone. Thank you. Now, then we started to work with Pat Riding and Robin Clark, and the time it took for a problem to become a funny story got a whole lot shorter. Thank you both so much for being so committed to making every event special. Thank you. There you are. Sherry Funston, Executive Director of Squash Ontario for 34 years. Thank you. Thank you for dedicating your career to squash in Ontario. Lolly Gillen, photographer and de facto committee member of every doubles tournament for the past 25 years. And Tim Bovaird, chair of the upcoming 100th LAPM, a wonderful partner on committees and on the court. Tim. Okay, I can't name everybody that I worked with, Tammy, Carol, and Bill Richards. I know Bill's watching. But if I worked with you a second time, it was a pleasure. Okay, I'm going to describe being the squash pro at the cricket club for 23 years in just 10 words. Jim Bentley, Aziz Khan, Heather Mackay, Pat Riding, Robin Clark. I like being on that list. And if I were to add 2 more words, they would be Stephen Warboys. Open doubles partners. Michael Desaulniers, now I am name dropping, huh? Michael Desaulniers, Jamie Bentley, and proof that enduring doubles teams can be more about bar compatibility than court compatibility, Brendan Clark. I see you. I lost to Brendan in the final of the Canadian doubles 5 times. The first 3, he was my partner. Open mixed doubles. Open mixed doubles partners. Carol, with great success. Thank you. Stephanie, sorry about that. Worst game plan ever. My fault. And Melanie. The 4 matches that Melanie and I played that Canadian mixed weekend quadrupled her doubles experience. More juniors. First, though, I need to thank their parents. None of the players that I worked with could have been as successful without your support. And thank you for choosing to live in the M5M postal code, purveyor of fine junior squash players to Canada for over 50 years. Thank you, Bob Hood, for being here tonight and for meeting me all those years before 8 a.m. to set up for Saturday morning squash. Thanks, Bob. Other parent coaches from the early days that are here tonight are Chris Wheeler, Clive Caldwell, and Arthur Richards. Okay, here's a great friendship that began at Saturday morning squash. Will Byrick and Jamie Nichols, Canadian 40s doubles champs for the last 3 years, soon to be 4 years. And I need to apologize to Paul Gartenberg. A few months ago, he won the Ontario doubles, despite me coaching Jamie and Will in the final. Lucky for you, Paul, they still don't listen. Okay, and remember, I'm not forgetting everyone. Remember what I said about squash players being hard to stay mad at? Who do you think of? Chris Radney, Will Mariani. Okay, my first season at the MAA, we came up with a plan to pump up the junior program, and Jeremy Freyberg was one of those new kids. He was 10, and after my first hit with him, I said, "Go tell Mr. Aylmer you're in the wrong group." And he went on to win the Canadian 19s and U.S. Intercollegiate. Later that month, and thank you for attending tonight. Later that month, I met his sister Jordana, who won the U.S. 19s and the Intercollegiate. It's like going to the track and running the table first time out. Okay, I will end with the beginning. I was 13 the first time I played squash. I was a tennis player. It was a rainy day in Vancouver, so of course there's nobody at Jericho. But that day, I found a little door at the far end of the club, and you remember those doors? If you got a concussion from playing squash back then, you straightened up too soon going on the court, right? So anyways, there was a cracked racket and a ball there, so, you know, what are you going to do? I hit a few, and a couple minutes later, the gallery door opened. And I thought to myself, it's the manager, I'm a junior, I'm not supposed to be here. But instead, an adult appeared, watched me for a moment, and rather than ask for the court, he said, "Want to hit?" And I had my first game. That first moment epitomized the kind of people I would meet for the next 50 years. What a wonderful game we play.
Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the class of 2022 inductions. We've had 4 wonderful inductees. I want to thank all in attendance in the audience that supported the inductees and supported the Ontario Squash Hall of Fame. Safe travels home.